Unmask the supernatural. Explore the history and future of parapsychology. Analyze legends and folklore. And welcome entertaining and informative guests as they probe irresistible mysteries that continue to haunt us. They may not always agree. In fact, they won't. But the Dueling Parapsychologists provide an investigative podcast that's not afraid to seek the truth and separate nonsense. With your hosts, Elliott Van Dusen and Darryl Walsh. Welcome to the Dueling Parapsychologist Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Dueling Parapsychologist Podcast. This is episode 7.
Yes,
this is
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all of our listeners.
Yep.
I think, is this our last one for the year?
This would be, I guess, unless we each do a short or something like that. Our friend Bob, who did that for a living for 40 some odd years, would have a fit the way we're both lit. But
oh yeah, he would not like it. He's very good at doing paranormal shows.
Oh yeah, he did Debbie Does Dallas in the 70s. So, you know, he's done it all. He's done it all, and he would have to have an absolute fit the way I'm almost straight down, you know, whatever. But you know, I got the creepy sweater, so that's all that matters.
I love that Christmas sweater. I got my cheesy free elf kisses, and Sarah already capitalized on it, and she said people shouldn't have to ask for kisses. I should just give them. And I said, well, should I kiss Darryl? And she said, yep. So
I want tongues. I want tongues.
So Christmas, Darryl, is there anything paranormal about Christmas? I mean,
damn
you
thing.
know.
And I guess that's the end of the podcast. Well, it's funny, you know, because it's there's a dichotomy between essentially white British Empire colonial areas and then others. And it's funny, most people don't think about Christmas as a time of ghosts and that, but yet they watch A Christmas Carol with 4 fucking ghosts in it.
Yep.
There's a, you know, and the 2019 one, which with Guy Pearce, which a lot of people won't watch. Again, it's so dark, but it's a character study, and it actually goes into why he is and how he is. And I put him down as, if I can find the notes, I had him down as PTSD, OCD, GAD, and one other thing. The first time I didn't notice it because it was too different. The second time watching was like, oh my God. And of course, there's separation anxiety and abuse and, you know, stuff thrown in. And the interesting thing is, instead of that just being the background to him and why he was a prick, it's actually very, very connected to his redemption, which he does not want at the end of the show. And when he learns, he doesn't give a shit about himself. He just wants Tiny Tim to live. And the coolest thing is, at that moment, the 3 ghosts who had visited him had been watching this because he was talking to Marley, and because they stretched and changed the story a little bit, and they just smiled and turned away, and he was redeemed, even though he didn't want it, he didn't think he deserved it, and all this kind of stuff. And then there was, at the end, the Mrs. Cratchit broke the 4th wall and scared the shit out of me, and just like in Woman in Black did the same thing. When they talk about something, and then all of a sudden they turn to the audience, and Mrs. Cratchit turned to the audience like, so what are you going to do? You know, it's really, if you're in the mood for a character study, it's awesome. But anyway, that story came out in 1843. And long before that, there was a history among, you know, the British Empire anyway, to tell ghost stories on Christmas Eve. And the only real relic that we know is, of course, A Christmas Carol.
It's interesting because Charles Dickens was a member of the Ghost Club.
Yes, he was.
So he obviously had a fascination with you know, with the paranormal, not just.
Hardly known either. But it had been going on for like 100 or so years beforehand. And I saw a movie, probably last year, where they were getting together in a big house on a hill and telling ghost stories, and it actually had to do, I think, with a murderer But you don't ask what the movie was. But the interesting thing is the ghosts for the British, which don't have Halloween or haven't had Halloween until now. Until recently, they had Guy Fawkes Day on the 5th of November when he had tried to blow up Parliament and was caught. They are now getting into Halloween. The irony is, of course, Halloween began from Europe, from Celtic Ireland and Scotland and Britain, and yet it went everywhere else. All Hallows Eve and left England. Anyway, they're getting it back, and but their ghosts are pretty tame-ish, like a Christmas Carol. But there are other ones. If you go farther east into Europe, the most modern one, of course, is Krampus, who's got big, horns, and he will take bad children and throw them in a bag and take them away with them, if they've been bad over the year. And, the further east you go, and this is true because zombies and vampires all began in Eastern Europe. There is an awesome, documentary done on the origin and history of vampires, and they do two different narrators. One, of course, is Captain Spock. Does it for his series he did in the 90s on Ancient Mysteries. And then there's the British guy that does it, and it's even creepier with him doing the narration and talking about about vampire and how they, and these were very well educated. They were military officers or they were priests or whatever, and talking about the rising of the dead. And you can keep Russia is literally, I could spend the rest of my life in Russia digging out their type of ghost stories and creepy monsters and everything, not even just related to Christmas, but just to any time. And
they've had some interesting stuff. I read about a poltergeist case that was over there that was really interesting, and they've had a medium that was really popular as well. So Russia has a medium named Nina Kulingina. Maybe saying her name wrong.
Kind of sounds familiar.
If I am, I apologize. But they wouldn't let anyone from North America come and examine her. They'd only let her be looked at in like a hotel room or whatever. So they weren't able to kind of replicate things. But Russia has, like you said, a lot of paranormal content that I don't think filters over here. It would be really cool, I think, to go over there and explore that.
It makes everything we have over here boring by comparison. They have the gate to hell, for fuck's sake. How do you outdo that? You know what I mean?
True.
And they've got other species of man, the Densovians, I think they were called. We're finding out that the family of man had an awful lot of potential winners, and Homo sapiens did it, but we were just the ones that just crossed the finish line. And there's a whole bunch of different ones, and then you bring in the Yeti or the Almasty up there, and of course they're trying to bring that in with the Dilatov Pass, where the skiers got hit with more than likely hit by a what happens when snow comes down on you? It's an avalanche. And a little sip on the Baileys, and boy, I'm just ready for bed. And so anyway, the latest one explained it pretty good. I don't think we need to go for UFOs or Russian. Interestingly, Russian tests on sound kind of brings it over to Newfoundland with Bell Island. Remember the Bell Island incident back in late 1970s or something? And it burst everything. It was like an EMP. It just burst everything on the island, and they thought it came from the Russians, and the Americans and the Canadians military investigated, and So I did actually, for one of the shows in I think on UFO for Shadowhunter, I interviewed a guy in about the Bell Island incident, and I watched kind of a really kind of almost homemade documentary on it. And it's a fascinating thing, and it would be a good way to get into Russia. Unfortunately, it's so far to go. You've got it's hard to it's not like going to China, or North Korea, but it is hard to get inexpensive. And the pandemic has pretty much hit everybody pretty hard in the finance, in the wallet. Mm-hmm. So all the plans that we had, I was going to Loch Ness, for instance, Iceland, to not only to their lake monster, but also to their lake monster museum. I was not going to the penis museum. And
where's that supposed to be at? Russia?
Iceland as well.
Oh,
yes, get to see what I'm missing. And so just ignore me. It's just been a really long time. But anyway, oh well, this Christmas, you never know. Santa, anyway. So keep this clean, and so anyway, yeah. But they do have a penis, really seriously. And since I wrote a book on the sociological and societal, cultural meaning of the penis, handwriting. I haven't typed it up yet. It really interests me too, but mostly it was going to be the lake monsters. And then I thought, before it really got bad with the pandemic, I thought, well, geez, I might be able to get out to Russia, some part of Russia or something, and get a taste of the fascinating stuff. If not, at least Eastern Europe. I mean, you go Romania, Bulgaria. I mean, the monsters are all the same. They just look so differently. I mean, it's essentially, they were created to keep children in line. And they are nasty looking brutes. The only thing that compares to North America, of course, is Native Canadian, Native American creatures and monsters. And natives in both countries were scared of their own shadow. I mean, everything had a spirit to it. And God, if I have to hear blues cap one more time, I'm going to slip my throat. And it's almost as if that's the only thing the Mi'kmaq or Mi'kmaq ever had. And it's not. They've had a lot of really cool folklore. And so I find it very interesting that their idea, like the Wendigo, the skeletal monster that is a cannibal, and which you, in a fit of crazy generosity, arranged for an artist to make me a real Wendigo. Notice, Lauren Coleman, this is not a fucking Bigfoot.
He's definitely not a Bigfoot.
Lauren Coleman and a few of the other ones are so desperate to make Bigfoot. Well, Lauren Coleman's not an investigator anyway. He just collects folklore and pretend stuff is real. But anyway, so I tend to, when I do my blogs, I'll say, yeah, and he's not a Bigfoot, Lauren. So one of these days I'm going to get a nasty note, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah, so they're like this, really cool creatures in Eastern Europe, and a lot of them for Christmas. And it's interesting that it's why would Christmas be? I can understand almost the British. They're bored. They're in India. They're Malaya, wherever they happen to be for a couple hundred years, and and so they make up some stories at Christmas time and there's a Christmas Carol, there's the Happy Prince, the Selfish Giant. I remember all the Grinch Stole Christmas, of course, but there are other ones as well. And but if you get to Europe, and you get off the main road, kind of thing, and you go deep into the countryside, you know, there you tend to find the real monsters. And Vlad the Impaler pales, no pun intended, you know, in comparison. And it's really cool because they're very skeletal, they're very definitely animalistic and dangerous looking. And so it's yeah, Christmas time is, and of course on TV we have Doctor Who always has a Christmas special. I don't know about the present Doctor Who. I guess they hate this woman like a passion. I saw the first 5 episodes. I didn't particularly like her, but I don't particularly like most of them. So, you know, it wasn't like an anti-female thing. Because sometimes Doctor Who can be bizarre. But anyway, they always have, you know, at Christmas time, the Brits always have something going on, a murder, something paranormal, ghosts or something like that going on their TV shows. And Doctor Who was particularly did that. It would almost like ignore everything it's set up as reality just to create this really wild story, whether it's the invasion of the Daleks or what have you. And yeah, so I mean, Christmas time, you never think. In fact, I've got a book on it, but it's not on Christmas stories. Am I still in that? Yes, I am. Ghost Stories of Christmas, it's called. Now, I should have got into this actually, Lone Pine Publishing, and but anyway, a friend of mine, Vernon Oikel, did a couple books in it, Ghost of the Maritimes, Part 1 and 2.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they did Ghost Stories at Christmas. Now, most of them are first-person stories, so you can kind of take them, you know, as you know, something that has a long lineage that people believe in and has a long heritage and has been seen by, you know, multiple people and stuff like that. That's more fascinating to me than somebody who just happens to wake up and sees an angel at the foot of their bed and it never happens again. You know, it's like, okay, well, okay, it's not much different than my seeing, you know, the little boy, you know, underneath the table, except for the other certain elements that it had, my feelings of being in that room and stuff like that. So yeah, it's we still don't hear in North America do ghosts at Christmas, and so
No, we don't. I agree with you. I think it's more a UK or European thing because you're right. Ours is more commercialized. That's all you really, you know, hear about. And when we watch, sure, people watch, you know, Charles Dickens' movie at Christmas time, but I mean, you know, over here we like watching Christmas Vacation and all the funny, you know, Christmas movies and things like that. So it's really interesting. So Krampus, now I believe that was also created, you know, as just like you said, to scare children into behaving and things like that. I have been seeing a lot of that pop up on Facebook this year. I haven't really like paid too much attention to it. I know they made a movie in 2015. It was kind of like a comedy horror movie, but has there been people that you're aware of that have like reported to actually see a Krampus? Have we run into that kind of phenomena at all?
not that I've noticed. Like you said, the movie at 2015 Krampus really took off fast. He was unknown till like 2013, and then all of a sudden, bang! There's a movie in 2015, and that kind of thing. And I saw a documentary on him, and how very popular he is in Central Europe, Switzerland, Germany, even Poland, the former German areas of Poland and Czechoslovakia, or the Czech and Slovak nations. And yeah, so, you know, some people we kind of PO'd at him. So I guess they believed in him in the sense that they thought that he should mind his own business. But you see echoes of that in St. Nicholas and then down through Santa Claus. If you've been a bad boy or girl, at first you'd be kidnapped or you'd be punished, and now we talk about coal in your stocking type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I grew up, it wasn't the Krampus was gonna come get you, but it was that Santa's always watching, and if you're not good, you're not gonna get any toys, and you get a lump of coal. And so I guess over here we kind of use a similar threat, I guess, to kids, to behave, especially around Christmas, because everyone's getting excited and kids are more hyper, and parents are trying to unwind for the holidays and keep everything even keel. But yeah, it's interesting. Just I know that's one thing we're kind of watching out for with Ghost Project Canada is the trend of things that were strictly folklore that now people are reporting, seeing. For example, like Slender Man. This one.
Yes. I was going to write an article, a blog on that actually one day before company showed up. So I got. You
should. You should write. That should be one of your articles. Write for Parascientifica.
Yeah.
So we have. So guys, I think we mentioned it last episode. We've decided to conjure from the dead, resurrect Parascientifica. I fucking used to love that newsletter because back then, actually, when you started printing that, even though it was just for members of CPSC and subscribers, there really wasn't a whole lot of like paranormal content in like magazines or newsletters at that time. So it was really cool. And then, a couple different magazines started coming out. They had UFO magazine, and there was one called The X Factor, which only ran for like 1 year. I think I've got a bunch of them in my closet. And then, of course, now the most popular paranormal magazine right now is Haunted Magazine.
Yes.
Actually, which you are a reader of, and
yes, well, it was, but my subscription ended, and things just at the present time, it's so expensive to buy British, things. I haven't renewed it, but I do have all my copies in my den. And
if I would have known that, I would have got you another subscription instead of a textbook.
I'll always take an extra gift.
But no, Haunted Magazine is probably the biggest and the hottest magazine right now for the paranormal. And it's kind of cool, actually. So in issue 32, which just came out December 7th, Brian Baker from Ontario had contacted me about the YouTube culture and asking about our podcast and things like that, because I told him that, we do the Dueling Parapsychologist podcast, and that, part of it's the educational aspect of things. Sorry?
How do you hear about you? Is that through Superstitious Times?
Yeah, so I've done a couple articles with him through Superstitious Times, and how I met him actually was through Lloyd Auerbach. Lloyd had recommended he contact me for some Canadian content. So it was really interesting, because I was telling him, like, I would like to do eventually, if we get charity status and raise some money for PPRI, I would like to do a research project survey on what paranormal investigators do once they collect their evidence, because we're seeing this trend on TikTok of people like, posting like an EVP or a ghost photo or whatever, and they go to these haunted sites and they post their evidence online, but nobody ever talks about what they do when they get that. Like when we get sent a ghost photo or a video, I have people that I can contact that can run that through software to see if it's been faked or if the pixels don't line up or anything like that. And a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing online is just strictly garbage. It's the orbs. It's dust. Yeah,
that's what we do.
It's dust. Like I'm on one Facebook page, and people are constantly posting a photo, and I think it's because some people just so desperately want to believe. But they're like, my grandfather recently passed, and look, I was taking this video of my husband, and this orb flies by, and you can see like this dust particle flying by, and then the people are like, is that my grandfather? No, it's dust. Like
dust, or it's a fly, or
And this all surfaced in the late 90s, and it was from Dave and Sharon Oyster that ran ghostweb.com. They were the ones that, they were saying these orbs are ghosts, and that the vortexes, you remember vortexes? The white, that turned out to be either a hair strand being reflected by the flash, or it was a camera strap, or even a finger in the way. So there was, and then the mist. There was ghost mist or ecto mist, but a lot of times, like, there's moisture in the air you can't even see. There was one night I had the dogs outside, and they were doing something cute, and I took my cell phone out to take a picture, and it was a clear night. There was absolutely not raining, nothing. I took the picture, and when it came back, there was ghost mist everywhere. But it's because there was moisture in the air that I couldn't see. It's not that there was a ghost surrounding my dogs.
I had a conversation with her. She contacted me about something. I forget the picture or something. And the thing was to do about orbs. And I pointed her towards the UFO guy who did, in the late 90s, did an extensive methodological investigation into orbs and proving that they were just, either insects, moisture, dust, et cetera, and it was because of the type of cameras that were now available. The aperture was too close to, the flash, et cetera. And anyway, she wanted to get into it with me. And I said, well, what makes you say something that's a ghost? And until you can tell me that, I said, really, there's no point in us talking, because you don't have any proof that that's a ghost, and all you're going to do is complain about I don't believe it. So it's pointless for both of us to waste our time. She never did contact me again, which was smart, because usually they tend to drill into you. But the thing is, you're right. The end of the 90s, we had this creation of fake paranormal photography and proliferation, actually, and people seeing what they wanted to see. And it made our job all the more harder. And then it began, I'm surprised I still see people, they'll be outside in the graveyard and there'll be tons of dust, because it's like a dusty July night, 95 degrees or whatever, and been that way for a week. So there's a whole bunch of crap in the air. Mm-hmm. And they take pictures, and there's like hundreds of dust and flies and all this kind of thing, and they're going on about, oh, look at all these ghosts and everything like that. And
I know it's still prevalent online, and that's why I was telling Brian in the interview, I want to do this survey eventually to find out if, like, because there's certain, I believe, this is just a hypothesis I have, there's certain people that are just on TikTok and Instagram, stuff like that, just to get viewers, and they're paranormal investigators, but they are basically just out to get, publicity. And then I think that there's probably some legitimate ones out there that are trying. They may not have the proper education or whatever, and they're trying to collect evidence of the afterlife. Yeah. But what I'm curious about is, like, what kind of analysis are these people doing on their evidence when they collect it? And I don't know. I have a hypothesis that most people are probably not doing anything.
Exactly. I've been friends which shall remain nameless, which were in my group, and actually I mentioned them to join again. The PP to let our viewers know, CPSC, Center for Psychological Studies in Canada, asked me if that didn't bother how many times I had to type that out in a row. That had, when it first started, it was research. Then it went investigative for about 5-6 years, and then went back to research. And so some of the members stayed obviously in touch and just did the research for me. And one of them, with a friend of his, would send me EVP now and then, and he knew damn well I didn't believe in it. But anyway, I suggested to Elliott that he get this person and his friend in PPRI, because I think they would. They have the burning desire. They just need the guidance to focus their energy towards more constructive, investigative techniques. And so that's why I had sent you the name. And I can't remember her. They're good. They're great fans of mine, of my books. One of the last book signings I did in chapters. I can't remember. They showed up, and she had a cute boyfriend too. And so anyway, the things you notice when you're doing other things, and when you're searching for ghosts. And she laughed at that. She thought that was too funny because I knew she could joke around like that, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah, so I since PPRI always was an investigative aspect, particularly to areas that CPSC would not touch, mainly UFOs, because if back then, and I'm not too sure now it's a little better, I think, but back then, if you investigate UFOs, right? So trying to keep CPSC more as a neutral clearinghouse for information of the paranormal, which was very successful. Even the investigative area was very successful until we had a schism, and some members wanted a more sensitive approach to the paranormal. I didn't appreciate the way they went, but that's fine. Understood why they went. And then all of a sudden I was doing TV, you were at the RCMP. So CPSC kind of drifted a little bit, and then of course taking care of my parents. But I kept it alive anyway since '96. And now it's primarily just a research organization. Although, I mean, if somebody came to us and had a good case or something, either we would do it or bump it to you, or we both do it. But PPRI is primarily the investigative organ of our collaboration here, as we're attempting now to get back into and find out, what exactly is happening in our world. And I find it fun, like you said about Slender Man, a real person. And there's Chupacabra. I was alive when I was alive when Satanic Panic was invented. I was alive when cattle mutilations were invented. I was young, but I remember following it. And it's interesting now, I'm watching Slender Man be created as a real thing. And it's fascinating. And ow, with my tongue. And you can see why at Christmas time, people would create these monsters and these things, organs of control, to keep the children from going up quite properly, going into the woods. I mean, because that's the last thing you would want your kids to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, that's why we're still afraid of the woods now. We've been to the moon and we have all the beautiful art and, technology and everything, but we're still afraid of the woods. What's in the woods, what we don't hear, what we don't see, what we just hear. And which is also a reason why stereotypes are never going to go away, because that's the way our brain forms patterns. And stereotypes change over time anyway, but for various groups. But anyway, it's just the way that our brain is trying to find threat vectors. So obviously, if you were walking by these bushes or whatever, and you heard a growl, you weren't going to go in with your hand to shake,
see what's in there. Yeah.
You take off the opposite way.
Yeah. So, because the first person that did it probably lost their arm.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why, of course, they created all these monsters at Christmas to keep the kids under, in line. Now, the interesting thing about the Brits, well, see, they brought up their kids much more strictly. They also had very nannies and stuff like this. And for the Jack the Ripper books I wrote, it was interesting to see how prim and proper, not East End London, but so much. East End London did have some people who were not poor and on the streets. It was much more of a mix than what you hear on the documentaries a lot of times. But they had a much more strict code of how to grow up, and so therefore they didn't need. They had ghost stories and everything, but they didn't need to have a Krampus. They didn't need to have an evil Saint Nicholas, or I forget what came before him. And, to keep their children in line, because they were pretty much trained from the moment they popped out, to be, very prim, proper, Victorian, no matter which king, George III to, George V, that whole era, of propriety. And but they still love their ghost stories. And they did it at Christmas time, which I always found just fascinating. And I never did any research on why. I just assumed because they didn't have Halloween, and Christmas technically Christmas is technically a ghost thing. I mean, it would be the birth of the Son of God, so technically that's paranormal. I think personally that religion should be separated from the paranormal. I don't count it as the paranormal, although a lot of the anti-religionists do tend to do so, and kind of tar each other with, whatever. But so anyway, I'm just, I haven't done an incredible amount of, I haven't done a PhD on it, in other words, but it would be a fascinating PhD to do, on.
Oh, no, it would for sure. I mean, yeah, obviously Christmas, like you said, it's about, the origins of it or whatnot. It's, the birth of Christ. And of course, like you said, he's the Son of God, which is supernatural. And then, of course, there's many stories in the Bible that he went on and did a lot of supernatural events. So,
born in March.
Exactly. He wasn't exactly born on December 25th. The same as we don't even know when he really died either, what year. They kind of have it narrowed down, but
4 AD, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, they always say between 4 and 6, so it's like this 2-year kind of gap or whatever. Yeah. It's interesting, but it kind of makes sense why Christmas would be, associated to the paranormal. But I just find over here in North America, it's more commercialized, and we don't bring
say, oh, Christmas is under attack and all this bullshit. Fronting Christmas isn't under attack. 94% of all people, regardless of their religious affiliation, celebrate Christmas. So you can say Merry Christmas to whoever you want to. It doesn't matter. You don't have to say Happy Holidays. And stop being what has Happy Holidays ever helped anybody? Seriously, right?
I've always said Merry Christmas, and I don't say it because I'm Catholic. It just that's just what I say. Like, it's people shouldn't be so sensitive.
And it does nothing. Does that make some water on the reservation any more pure? Does that help any of the elderly stay in their home longer? Does that help the homelessness? No, it doesn't. Focus on the problems, not on the keyboard warrior stuff, that's really kind of silly. And you can really get me going there. And it's like me and mediums. And speaking of for profit, and back in the days of Jimmy Von Prague and John Edward. But I think South Park really took care of John Edward pretty good. And did you see the episode of South Park when they?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Kyle called him the douchebag, and he hated it. And then down to Earth came these aliens from whatever organization, and John Edwards became the douchebag of the universe, right?
Oh my God! I'll have to watch it.
He was doing, and of course he's complaining. No. Oh my God! It was so good. And shortly after that, well, of course, there'd been a lot of exposés into how they were doing it and faking it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's too commercial. It's no longer religious. Secular Christmas went out a long time ago. Most people don't even go to church on Christmas Day. And so stop whining about it and just, do something worthwhile. And but I find it's now so boringly political size, political. That there's no fun in it here. You know, that's probably why this book is first person people just talking about things. They don't have a heritage of it in their family, even. You know, it's not like they're in Vermont and there's a certain monster that shows up to, you know, a Krampus essentially. It's all essentially just, yeah, it took place at Christmas, but could have been Easter or any time. I mean, you know what I mean? We've lost something. I don't know if we ever had it. I think if we paid more attention to Native Canadian and Native American stories, particularly about the Wendigo, I think we'd find a much more richer, heritage and fun stuff to read about and to enjoy at Christmas. But instead, we've got to go on the infographic show or let's see who else does it. Simon Whistler and various of his shows will do. He'll do a lot of the top tens, and but it's the internet. What Culture might do it, and you find out. Interestingly, I watched one today on the crucifixion of Jesus and why he was crucified, and he was more or less crucified because nobody really wanted to take the blame for it, and they kept passing them around. But they were told that he's got to go, and so anyway. Then they followed up something I'd watched many weeks ago and talking about the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
And they logically proved Jesus Christ rose from the dead using logic. Now, whether he did or not, as Roman Catholics, we tend towards that, but whether he did or not, that's a moot point. The fact was the guy proved that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. And it's actually the second part of the one I watched this morning about the crucifixion. And it was just fascinating to listen to somebody argue passionately, but with facts and logic, that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. It's just kind of, well, you have to believe, faith says that we got to do it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He was able to, build, you could use that in any philosophy class or logic class or whatever, an argument. And the same way you might build an argument for dark matter that we spoke about at Halloween, or that, we might for Bigfoot or lake monsters or whatever, or real, unreal. And, yeah, I mean, it was very, very, obviously I saved it, and I'll see if I can send it to you, but it obviously was very interesting and fascinating. But
yeah, it reminds me, I saw a movie. It was like a Hollywood movie, but it was based on a true story. It was a reporter. His wife was really religious, and he was kind of just atheist or neutral. And he set out as a side project to try and prove that the resurrection of Christ was not real. And at the end of the day, he did all this research and same thing, like looked at facts and interviewed, historians and looked at evidence, and he was not able to explain the resurrection of Christ. It was really interesting. So I'd definitely be interested in watching that.
I find the infographic show, the top 10, and there's one other one I find do a lot of the really good stuff about Krampus, the other monsters and horrors from Eastern European and in Russia, not just at Christmas time. Essentially, if you went through a lot of Eastern European and into Russia, I mean, they can get a little bit repetitive because, I mean, essentially they were just created to keep children in line. And it's just that the difference to them. I mean, the way they look, and Krampus with his big horns, and yet you've got like vampire monsters that that just have strange angular faces and stuff. The horns, and it's it's really fascinating and worth doing. And I always wanted to do some sort of I don't know, even one of those magazines that you go get $15 at the Shoppers Drug Mart, and it's like, you know, the 100 places you don't want to go to, or 20 haunted castles you must visit before you die, or true whatever. They usually sell $15 to $17, and I always thought I should approach them with one with something different, like the Russian stories and this kind of thing, because they're just fascinating.
Yeah.
As opposed to our rather boring.
Well, you could write an article too for Parascientifica about something to do with Russian.
Use that to send off as almost like a query letter to what organization.
I'm excited about us relaunching Parascientifica. Not that I want to, don't get me wrong. We're not trying to replace Haunted Magazine or anything like that. But I just think it would be cool because obviously part of our job at the Canadian Association for Parapsychological Research and Investigation, which is a mix of the Center for Parapsychological Studies in Canada, Ghost Project Canada, and Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation, is education. We do investigations, we do research, and we do education. So I think it's going to be really cool to develop this electronic magazine. Hopefully I can find somebody to do a print on demand for a reasonable cost. And then that way, if anyone wants to subscribe and get a paper copy, we can do a print on demand kind of thing. And I just think it'll be really cool to incorporate a bunch of different things and get us writing again too. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I just had a third book come out there, but I know you have a lot of writing potential as well, and you've got a few
small little things, not big books.
Yes,
things that are articles. Get your ideas out. Essentially, larger blogs.
Yes,
intense blogs. Blogs are more opinion, but with an article, you've got to actually have some sort of logical, proofs and stuff like that. And unless you're just doing a thing about, okay, if you go to Hungary, this is what you're going to find in the woods. But so you can whip off an article so easy. I mean, I did the one, Are Ghosts Extinct? Where Evil Dwells with Vernon Oikel. And it was fun. It was a nice change from having to do a whole manuscript on Jack the Ripper or Bigfoot, and just write about this idea I had about how ghosts have changed over the many thousands of years, but how all of a sudden they have changed, since reality TV has shown up. And although technically you could argue that has nothing to do with ghosts at all, but which I could probably go along with. But it was wonderful to be able to do that, and I put a lot of work into it, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm actually going to ask permission to reprint that in Parascientifica.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Actually, I was going to if you do ask him that, I'd love for you to ask him. So I have an idea for a fourth book that I'm working on. I'd like to have you write the foreword and Vernon write the afterword. It's something different. It's a switch from Supernatural Encounters.
And it's also stepping on my fucking toes too.
Well, that's why I thought it was appropriate to ask you to write the foreword.
Oh, I get to write a 5-page foreword in the thing, and you get all the fun. Yeah, okay, I'll have to bring something out more important before that then. In 2 or 3 years, it's the 25th anniversary of the 10th anniversary. The 25th anniversary of the original Ghosts of Nova Scotia.
That's right.
Yeah. And I was thinking about doing something like that. We could always end up collaborating, I suppose. And
that would be cool. Yeah. It's interesting. So, I always, you're the same way. We always have like multiple friggin' projects on the go, but I am excited about the Parascientifica because, like you said, they can be like short little stints. We're only going to do it quarterly, so we have 3 months to write 1 or 2 articles. I've already reached out to a few different people, like Carmel, who was at our event there, is doing her paranormal trauma work. So I asked her if she'd be interested in writing an article for us about that, and she said absolutely, she'd be more than honored to. I reached out to a couple of students from the Rhine Center. One's like a medium, and she did a really good job talking about tools that people use. And she's kind of skeptical of some of these tools, but like dowsing rods and pendulums and stuff like that. So I thought that would be kind of a cool article to write as well, right? Like what types of stuff did they use when spiritualism started back in the 1800s? What type of stuff are they using today in today's world? Because now there's probably apps on your phone.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, there's probably dowsing apps on your phone or whatever, right?
Well,
So
if there's a developer out there that does not want to cost us an arm and a leg, I have an idea for an app to go with Ghost Project Canada. You can contact us and we can discuss it non-publicly. Did I say that right?
That would be actually really interesting.
That's too much Bailey's. Before I do an interview, but yeah, I have an idea, and so anyway, yeah, I'd love it, but it could cost up to 10 grand.
Right.
Emic has changed the whole thing. So if I can find somebody who's really interested in the idea, and is willing to charge a bit, but maybe also wants the publicity of it all and that kind of thing, because when we would debut it, we would really put on publicity and stuff.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Or and don't forget too, right now we're a nonprofit organization. We're registered in Ghost Project Canada, PPRI are registered with Nova Scotia Registry Joint Stocks. And then Capri is undergoing the process to become a charitable organization as well. So if we get that charitable status, there may be a developer that could write off some of the development costs as a tax write-off as well, because they're helping out. And we are broke. Trust me. My chief financial officer is about to do
months ago.
She cut me off months ago, and here's my folder with all our receipts from this year that she's about to go through and tell me how much money I've spent out of my own pocket for funding this organization. So,
well, luckily taxes wise, you can go as self-employed, but my brother-in-law was discussing all the stuff we did this year, and I had to looked at the self-employed in June. It is so complicated to figure out. He says, you pay Guy $300, he'll do it for you. And I'm thinking, well, fuck, maybe I don't even have to pay $300 if I can learn this. But it is so complicated, self-employed, because we still are, as self-employed while we're.
Well, it's even when CERB came out, I was looking at if I qualified as being self-employed as a writer or whatever, but then they had the amount of money. I think it was like $5,000. That was either, I can't remember now, net or gross. Because remember, a lot of people got in trouble.
Yeah.
Because they thought they made $5,000, but it was all messed up and
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just too much for me. So I didn't. I just claimed the income I made on book sales, and of course CRA bent me over and did me 10 ways from Sunday because obviously Amazon pays you and your distributor pays you and stuff like that. It's not taxed. So at the end of the year, Canada Revenue wants their money. So I always bend over at the end of the year and take it from the tax man. But no, so if we do get that charity status, that may be something that would attract a developer, you know what I mean? Because they would be able to write that off as a tax break for them. So
I think though the idea I have, which I'm not going to go into, I think they find, especially for a younger one who's pretty smart and knows what he's doing, who would be fascinating to write. And it would also garner him and us an incredible amount of publicity. And it would go with, the stuff we're sort of doing anyway. And that's all I can say. Also, now it's the end of the year, we need volunteers. We've got a lot of data. It's got to go into Excel so it can be analysis can begin. Particularly Bigfoot, got something like 7,200 sightings that have to be analyzed. The ghost stuff, it has to come out of these books and put in Excel. Most of them. Some of them are just too personal and and they just don't sound real. Whoops. I suppose we could make a section on that, but I have no particular desire to find out how much fakery there is out there. I'm more interested in analysis of the phenomena of ghosts, poltergeists, hauntings, and stuff like that. So yeah, next year it would be strictly volunteer work, certainly. But yeah, we do need to expand administratively. We're great for investigators and top officials and stuff like that, and we know where we want to go, but we need a lot of people to help us, and so we need some very dedicated people, including those two people that I mentioned before, that are willing to slog through, that don't mind typing in, things on the computer.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was actually talking to Spencer a week ago, and he sent me a temporary website. It's kind of a staging website, and him and his developers, because when things are slow, he has to pay his employees to work anyway, so he gets them to work on PPRI's website and structure because he's got to pay his employees anyway. So you may as well have them working and sitting at a desk doing nothing, which is awesome because, like you said, an app costs 10 grand to make. Well, so does a website, because I've asked him before, how much would a website like this that I want cost? And the price is always around 10, 15 grand. It's a big business, but he has worked on integrating Google Maps into a database for us so that we can enter the case information. So I gave him all the stuff and he did up an Excel sheet for his designer. So we want like the weather, the time, the duration of the sighting, all the good details so that it will come up on a map. And I'll for those that are watching, I'll see if I can find a screenshot of it, but it's really cool. I'll share my screen here. See if I can get it up. Get it up. That sounds really bad. That sounds very sexual. No, it's going to be cool. He's hoping to have it live by the end of. Let's see if I can airdrop it to myself. He's hoping to have it live before the end of the year, which would be absolutely awesome. No, Apple, as you say, fucking Apple, as you say. It never works. I'm gonna email it to myself and just to
things to do what it does on PC. And Steve Jobs actually was quite a despicable human being, and he had his own Gestapo to make sure they kept all their employees in line and nobody sold secrets or lost a phone or whatever. And they faked being policemen and just burst into your door and search your house without a warrant, looking if they thought you were the one that was giving away secrets. Oh yeah, Steve Jobs was quite an asshole. And oh, that's good.
There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the rough start of it here. So you'll come to our website, and then there will be a spot for people to go to the case maps. And then we're going to have different phenomena. So there'll be haunting phenomena, vampires, UFO encounter, close encounters. There's going to be cryptozoology sightings. There's going to be psychic events, all kinds of different paranormal things, all the different classifications, which is what we want to do. And then it'll pop up on the map, and this is just as you can see down in this corner here, it's just gibberish because again, it's all just being developed. But for example, you'll be able to click near Cedar Grove. So if you live near Cedar Grove, New York, New Jersey area, and you want to know what's up, you could hover over it, get kind of a synopsis of what it says, and then you would go to the read more, and it would have, you know, any data or any trends that we have and stuff like that. And it's broken up by the different logos. So we've got you know, haunting, vampire, close encounter of the second kind. They're working on a couple more little logos, like for the cryptozoology and things like that. So it's slowly coming together. As you can manage, like, this doesn't look like much right now, but I mean, to write this code and get this all you know, ready to go live for us for Ghost Project Canada, it's an immense amount of work. So it is coming along. It's been something he's been working on for several months. So he's hoping to have the basic version of it live before the end of this year. So that would be awesome. But that would be good. That would be good for what you're doing, like with the spreadsheet, collecting all that data, because we'll need somebody to go on and enter all that.
Both the geographical and the statistical analysis, and eventually, after we do the reasonably primitive Excel, then there's ANOVAs and T-squares and chi-squares and a whole bunch of stuff I learned in psychology and forcibly erased from my mind because I can't do statistics and higher statistics, because that's when you start to bring in different variables, not just one variable, you know, like nighttime, Bigfoot, it would be nighttime, woods, and warm, 10,000 feet, you know what I mean? And see the interaction between these various variables.
Yeah, or another one with Bigfoot, just using Bigfoot as an example, is a lot of people report the awful smell or stench that come with them. So you could have that as a variable.
Yes, although he's not very stinky in my analysis. Oh, they're going to hate me when I bring out my book, because they are functioning and investigating and chasing a will-o'-the-wisp because they're doing it wrong.
Speaking of I know you got a few manuscripts ready to go. So what is your plan, I guess? Like, I mean, it's almost 2022 now. So are you thinking on releasing one or two of these next year? Or?
Yeah, I can do Supernatural Jack the Ripper, and I can do the gay Jack the Ripper easily. The Canadian Jack the Ripper, I have anybody that has any connection to Jack the Ripper or knows any Canadian connections to Jack the Ripper. There is a woman who was on one of the programs, and I forget her name. She's in Ontario. I've got to contact her. I've got her contact information, but it's like really old. It's like 10 years old. So I might have to contact one of the investigators in England. That's the one that's farthest away from it. Then I've got the Bigfoot question and answer and Jack the Ripper question and answer book. Also kind of middling way. So technically I could, if I sat my ass down and stopped worrying about what's going to happen in the future, and just actually work to build the future that I want, I could actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 books out, and next year they should be out right now. Actually, there's absolutely no fucking reason they're not. And actually, I've got 2 other ones I'm working on. So I mean, technically, I could have 6 up on Amazon, not printed, but I mean digitally anyway. And by the end of next year, if I just was able to burn through anxiety's crippling, crippling influence on one, and it's amazing what you will do so that you don't sit down and do simple stuff. I am almost finished all these damn books, but because anxiety knows I'm almost finished all these damn books, it stalks me, boop, just like that, because it's afraid of what's going to happen if I finish them and I send them off to, and all that kind of thing. So anyway, amygdala, and what's the other thing? I keep forgetting. It's right on top of the amygdala. Hypothalamus. If they would just shut the fuck up.
Well, hopefully you get a new one out, because it's been when's the last
2012
one?
Was the last time.
And was that which survives?
That's the last. That was no. That one was that is the Monsters of Atlantic Canada. And then I had one, Greatest Mysteries, but it just, my publisher didn't like it, and I didn't do it well anyway. Mom came down with cancer. I couldn't really focus on it. Yeah, I edited really bad, and so anyway, there's some things in there I can reuse, of course, but Vernon Oigel, who I've worked with and collaborated with and contributed to a few of his books, he brought out more Ghosts of Nova Scotia. I texted him and said I'm going to kill him because, of course, that was going to be my next book. But the thing is, I've got information that he doesn't have or anybody else about creepy things in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, that'll be good. That'll be good. Yeah, and like I said,
a lot of projects on the line. I've got Parascientifica. I've got the Ghost Project Canada. I want next year. I want to get going on a lot of that stuff. And whether it's because I'm here or on the street or whatever it happens to be, and so anyway, and hopefully we'll be doing those shows, and at least, 2 shows at least for us, both of us, and hopefully I can bring you in on mine for the Bell one, the one that I want to do for me. I can bring you in on that as well. So we'll be doing 3 shows anyway, of the 5 possibilities, and so So anyway, hopefully we'll get that done as well, and that'll help boost writing and all that kind of thing, or else it'll completely consume us and we won't have time for anything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like Sarah says, you and I are big dreamers, and then we always get these multiple projects on the go, and then sometimes we get too many projects on the go that we don't get anything done. But
exactly, you don't know which one to focus on.
Yeah, no, for sure. And she is right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because like we're only 50%. We wanted to have been teaching Introduction to Parapsychology back in October, and we're still only 50% done writing the course. So hopefully over the next couple days, it's the holidays. I
wrote Ghost Waters over Christmas in 2002.
Did you?
I wrote it over Christmas break in 2002.
Well, I'm gonna bring my laptop to Cape Breton, and I'm hoping, over the holidays it'll be a little, there'll be some visiting of family and stuff like that, but hopefully it'll be, quiet, because, especially Christmas Day, I find, and Boxing Day, where everything's closed. I
want to go do photography of the haunted places, continue to catalog the various places and do some video as well. And I can only do that on the holidays. The last couple of years, it's always been kind of stormy or too cold, or I couldn't get down, and of course now I'm a little bit crippled because I don't have my car anymore, but I'm not bitter. And I made joke about Leslie whenever I mentioned the fact that, the car, I had to give up the car because it was beautiful, people. It was beautiful. Absolutely. It was a Ford Taurus. Beautiful, but unfortunately they rust like a fucking old whatever. And on the bottom, and it was going to be way too much money to fix. And then the guy who bought it said, "I can fix this for $300."
Wow.
$2,500.
Wow.
I just wasn't going to put that out. Anyway, but I'm not bitter. And so anyway, yeah. But that's like you, before I was doing the cataloging of the socks that don't match, I was, I would sit down and write over Christmas because it was very boring. And after the food, and you open your gifts, or open your gifts and then the food. Nowadays, there's some things you can go to that if you're documenting them, it's either kind of impossible if you got too damn many people around, or else you want to do it so that nobody's watching you do it, because you feel like a bit of an idiot sometimes. And so I'm hoping that the holidays will be really warmish, and buses are free on Christmas Day. And I usually find that a depressing day anyway. After the dinner, you open your gifts and dinner, or sometimes I'll wait to Boxing Day just to drag it on. So the buses are free. So there's a few things I got to do in Dartmouth for Titanic. It's the 110th anniversary next year. So anything I do, I'm doing on my own dime, because Bell did not have the money for that, and I can't think of anywhere else to go. Maybe Eastlink, but that'd be awful quick to get money to, because I don't even know what I want to do yet. But anyway, I still do want to document the Titanic areas in Dartmouth because I've got the Halifax ones. And of course, obviously the haunted ones. I've got most of them. And I lucked out when Mom was one of her last treatments, because she was in a special study group. And in fact, she's the reason the drug study was stopped and sent into immediate people getting it for multiple myeloma, because she went into remission so fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she just went boom, right into the first year into one stage of remission, and then there's the stage where there's absolutely not a fucking prion or anything existing, and she did that in roughly 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so and then it never came back. Nothing ever came back. So, and this was this new drug, MLN 9730. Anyway, so one of the last times that we went for her treatment, which was about 2 months before she died, we're sitting in the VG, and where the elevators are in the Centennial Building. So anyway, we're there just sitting down, and I said, "Mom, do you mind?" Oh, or actually, I took out my camera. I don't even remember what I used. I was probably using my cell phone at the time, and I documented just for fun. And it wasn't until later that I realized that actually there's supposed to be a ghost coming out of the elevators. But anyway, then I went outside and I documented the whole hospital before it, because we were waiting for Carol or Rick or somebody to come pick us up, but they were involved in something, so it was going to be like a half-hour wait. And sitting down, just not my thing, watching people. So I got up and I did my work, and I just fluked out documenting the precise spot where there's supposed to be a nun that comes down and comes out of the elevator. And
that'll be really cool, because on the map I showed you, that's all that it would show at that point. But eventually, when the person clicks the read more, and for the people that are inputting the data for us, there's going to be a multimedia section. So like, for example, if you wrote that story up and entered all the data about the nun and then took the couple pictures of the elevator that you took, you'll be able to upload that to the database as well. So that'll be really cool that because I know this past summer as well, you and Jeff traveled around Nova Scotia and you were collecting a lot of photographs of spots as well. So you've got a lot of
2 years in a row, 2019, 2020. I still have to do the Nova Scotia Triangle. I still have to do New Glasgow, Antigonish area, and Marguerite. Oh, and Lunenburg. Those are the big ones. Lunenburg,
yeah, that'll be really cool. That'd be cool to see some of those.
Have to borrow your car.
Yeah, you should.
To get around for those, I just don't like asking for stuff like that. So I just that's why it never got done this year.
Well, next year, 2022 is just on the brink. Yeah. Next year, you'll finish that off. You'll get a book or two released.
Yes, I'll have Nova Scotia finished. PEI I can do in 2 days max. New Brunswick's going to be an issue because it's a huge project.
Yeah,
and it's so separated that it's like you're spending essentially a day or two just traveling from one place to the other. So you got to decide how you're going to do it, and it's just to do it in a circle. But then you're going to have to go a little bit down the Miramichi for the Dungarvan Wooper. But other than that, it's pretty much just driving all around the edges of the province. And St. John and Fredericton are going to be the biggest areas where you could spend 2 days at each. So 2, 4, 5, 6. I mean, we're looking at like a week just to do New Brunswick. Whereas, which is about the same as do Nova Scotia, but it's just the distances are so much different, twice as big, right? Whereas PEI, you potentially could do it in a day. If
You could in a day, yeah, probably 2 days for sure.
days for sure, right?
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah.
It's an easy little trip over, right?
But you never know, like what'll come next year too. Like if we do some filming over in New Brunswick too, you could pick off a couple spots while we're over there. And that'll be on the film company's dime. So
yeah, exactly. Because I think for sightseers, we're going to be doing some New Brunswick stuff. If Omicron doesn't get bad, and the thing is, like I said to my sister, each mutation is getting worse. I said, and I can see eventually something akin to the Black Death in developing countries because they're not going to have the vaccines. Omicron, unless you've got 3 shots, it can still take you out essentially, because the first 2 vaccines are not equipped to fight it. So you're looking at 3 shots for Omicron. And if it keeps mutating, I mean, I said to Carol, I said, I won't see 25 to 50% of the population dying, but I said I could easily see 10 to 15% of the Earth's population dying because of something that really it keeps getting more easily transmissible and worse when you get it. And so, yeah, I can easily see this going on for a couple more years, which would, of course, fuck up the TV shows badly. And you don't have a basement. I wish you would start digging a cellar because I might need to come.
No, I know. I'm gonna try and go into. I guess like my New Year's resolution will be to try and go into 2022 with a little bit more positivity because I can be a little bit cynical and negative about things. But you know what? Like I said, I'm really looking forward to getting our course finished so we can start teaching because we both enjoy teaching. I'm looking forward to get Parascientifica back up and running. I look forward to any new cases that come forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully we get the charity status, and then I'm also looking forward to us starting to plan. Because next year's 2022, we want to hold it in 2023, so we got to start planning for the.
There's a person we need to talk to, D. Ryan Meister, who put on the one for the Titanic one in 2018, and she's the one to talk to outside of the city people. She'll tell you all the extra stuff that we need to know.
Okay, so, we should book a lunch with her or something, so we can find out.
She's a little bit upset with me because the fact that back when that idiot from South Carolina wanted to come up and dig up 121 graves in order to do some DNA testing, I was only given the permission because I was media relations and secretary to go on Rick Howe and say a very boring, it's so boring I can't even remember, statement from us, Titanic Society of Atlantic Canada, and Dee, who can't shut up about Titanic and everything else, was refusing to speak against this whole thing. And for a year, I could see it coming that I would have to fall on my sword, actually, which is up there. And so I did. So I had sent Rick Howe all the emails and everything. He knew exactly what was going on, and so on the phone with him, first question out of his mouth, he focused me in on a negative reaction to this guy's idiotic idea. Mm-hmm. And I went on for 10 minutes and I said desecration, and I used all the words because I wanted to frame it as it was, not his way with, oh, people are coming up to me and crying and thanking me for wanting to identify them for the survivors. And it's like, the survivors are all dead. Their families are all dead. It's over 100 years ago. You're going to dig up 121 graves because you can't dig up just one. You got to dig up the 2 on either side. So there's only 40 graves he needs to get to. They're unknown. But the city was against it. Definitely the Jewish cemetery just had to go to hell, and the other cemeteries. But they were worried that there might be an upswell of public thing towards it if he brought on his crying thing and all, focused it that way. So my job was, besides to kill any opportunity to continue with TSAC, was also to make sure I framed it as it would be. But anyway, the beginning of next year, yes, we should arrange to take her out for lunch, tell her what we're doing, and and hopefully get her, input in a lot of things.
And if that doesn't work out, I know when I was talking to the Halifax Convention Center, they had recommended contacting the people that organize HalCon and talking to them. So we'll definitely touch base with somebody there, because this is we saw just how much planning went into our one evening.
Yes, exactly.
Let alone
that's be a much bigger thing.
Let alone a two-day event with experts that we want to bring in from all over. So yeah, it'll be good. Like I said, I'm going to take the next couple weeks to reflect, and I'm going to try and go into 2020 with more positivity.
2022.
Oh fuck! What did I just say? 2020?
20. Well, I mean, you can go back to 2020, and if we could do that, if we knew what was coming.
Oh my fuck! I must have a time machine in my garage. I meant I'm going to be more positive in 2022.
Okay, that's good. You do that.
All right. Well, is there anything we haven't told our listeners? We're getting them all psyched about Parascientifica coming up. That will be available on our website. And the course we're still going to develop.
I'll be writing a rebuttal to anything that I don't agree with, by the way. In the course, like your RSPK and poltergeist thing. Not a rebuttal per se. I don't know. Maybe you could put it as a sidebar, or maybe you could mention that it's not exactly completely.
What I'll do is once we have the course all done, I'll send you all the slides, and then that way we can both kind of create our speaking notes.
Yeah.
And so like and I want it to be like, if there's something you don't subscribe to, then you'll be able to jump in and just say, okay, guys.
Alternate theories type of thing.
Yeah, like Elliott subscribes to the RSPK theory, but there's also, I just want to make you guys aware, there's also this and this and this. So I think it'll be really good. And what else do we got going on? Parascientifica. We're gonna start planning the conference.
You got to plan your wedding.
I got a wedding in 2022. That's right. That's mostly taken care of. Got to get the invites out in January.
The guy gets it easy. It's always the daughter and the mother-in-law. So
yeah. No, it's it'll be good. I think we got a lot of projects on the go. We just got to try and stay focused and
keep working at it. Just don't think about it as we have so much work to do. It's like when you're cleaning. You think, oh my God, I got to vacuum, and then I got to do the wood floors with that special stuff. And then I got to do the marble floors with this kind of stuff. And then, you know what I mean? Then I got to dust, and then blah, blah, blah. And then I got to steam clean the carpet in the couch while Jeff was gone. And, it's like, it just does not get done because you're thinking of all this. It's just
true. True. It's true.
One little thing and do one little thing, even so a little thing a day.
And that's what I try and do sometimes too. I'll just pick something that I want to accomplish, and if I get more done, great, I'm happy. And if not, then try again the next day.
Yeah, we can only function under what circumstances we're unfortunately burdened with.
Yeah, exactly. It's all we can do. But no, I think
that's what you gotta. Your arse is going to be tinged a little bit.
Yeah. You got that right. No. Is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners?
It's just the time to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you, obviously, but to our listeners and watchers. And next year holds promise, and maybe we'll do a little more dueling than we have been. But there's so much to get, so much of introduction to do first, And
we did have the intention on doing just a episode of our beliefs, because we do have a couple of different beliefs, but obviously that will now be in season 2 and next year. But yeah, we'll definitely step things up a bit too with the podcast. Like I said, we apologize for releasing some shows here late, but just, Darryll was sick, I was sick, and with COVID, you got to take things so serious. And then I fell down my stairs like an idiot and hurt my foot. So yeah, and then scheduling too. We tried to meet up a couple times, but both our schedules got all messed up. So, you know what? 2022 is a new year. That means fresh start. So we'll be more on our game next year.
Yeah, more in the game, more little shorts too as well. I'm going to organize the apartment so that I have a permanent background that I can use, like you in your office, and that I can use so that if I feel like doing a short on something, that's happened in the world, or something like that, and or a preview of how I'm going to go at you because you made a stupid comment on something, and
yeah, no, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. So
I'll do a little video blog. Plus I have to start my own blog, and I have to ask you how to do that. Grumpy Ghost Hunter, and actually I'm not tied to that officially, and nobody knows who Grumpy Ghost Hunter is, but what? And essentially what I'm going to do is just rip into all the stupidity that's in ghost hunting and paranormal and that kind of thing.
That'll be good too. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting.
So, but that'll be probably just I'll probably film it, but it'll probably be mostly just an audio thing. And yeah, so because it's like letting off steam, right? Just sit down and do a 10-minute little extra, or do a little blog or whatever. And yeah, so anyway, I'm looking forward to next year, because I mean, I have to accept the fact that I've been told that next year is set. Doesn't matter what these things here keep telling me, or yeah. I have to just accept that things are going to turn out all right. And yeah, so yeah, so that's all I got to do. Some days it's harder than others, and to see the future and think that, okay, it's set. Well, how do I know it's set?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm not the one that's setting it. It's out of my hands, and I'm not used to that at all. And so, yeah, because I don't have any backup anymore. So it's me or the trees. Find a nice spot.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great Christmas and a happy New Year. And
yes, indeed.
Darryll and I will see you guys next year.
Yes, we will. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
The Dueling Parapsychologist Podcast, an educational and entertaining podcast with Canadian parapsychologists Elliott Van Dusen and Darryll Walsh. To reach out to the Dueling Parapsychologists, see our Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram accounts, or email us directly at info@ppri.net.